All right, let's dive in. Elon Musk.
Elon Musk, yeah.
He's everywhere these days, right?
It's hard to get away from him.
Whether you're trying to, you know, get ready for a big meeting or just figure out, like, what is the deal with this guy?
What is all the hype about?
We're going to break it all down.
Yeah.
And we're not just going to be like, okay, he started this company and then that company. We really want to get into, like,
The why.
the why. What makes this guy tick?
The motivations, yeah.
Yeah. So our sources for this, we got some, like, biographical stuff.
Mm-hmm.
We got articles analyzing some of his, like, biggest moves.
Yeah, the strategies, the thinking behind them.
And then we even threw in some of his own words.
Always good to hear it straight from the source.
Yeah, because I think you can't just be like, oh, Elon Musk, tech CEO, done.
Right. He's so much more than that.
He's in so many different fields that seem completely unrelated, but when you look at it, there's this, like...
This thread that connects it all.
Yeah, this thread.
Challenging the status quo, like over and over again. What everyone assumes is just the way it has to be.
Okay, so let's rewind way back. South Africa, Musk's just a little kid.
Just a kid, yeah.
Obsessed with computers, though. I mean, already obsessed.
Already?
Sells his first computer game at 12 years old.
12. That's incredible.
12. Like, what was I doing at 12? I was, like, barely mastering Mario Kart.
Right. I mean, that's what stands out to me. It's not just that he was good with computers. It's the initiative. Even then, he's teaching himself. He's, like, making things happen.
Yeah, and that kind of drive seems to be, like, a constant in his life.
Totally, like a through line, you know?
And speaking of drive, he decides to move to the U.S. at 17.
Yeah.
That's a huge leap, not just, like, geographically,
Oh, yeah.
but, like, mentally, to leave everything you know behind,
Yeah.
chase this totally different future.
And it's a theme we see again and again, that willingness to make a radical change, not just tinker around the edges.
Mm-hmm.
And this plays out in his companies, too. He starts with Zip2, early online maps. Useful, but not exactly.
World-changing.
No, not world-changing. Then PayPal, and that's when things really shift.
Because suddenly it's not just providing a service, it's like altering how we think about money itself.
Exactly.
Online payments, they were so clunky back then,
Maybe.
and PayPal made it so smooth, so commonplace.
And the key is these early successes, they don't make him complacent. It fuels him.
Yeah, it's almost like each win is proof that, like, bigger, bolder things are possible.
Like a stepping stone.
Which brings us to SpaceX.
Okay, here we go.
And honestly, this is where things get a little wild.
Yeah.
So SpaceX, Musk has this lifelong space obsession.
Yeah, I mean, who hasn't looked up at the stars and wondered?
Right, but he's not content with just sending up satellites. He wants to make humans a multiplanetary species.
Like full-on Mars colonization.
Mars colonization, that's the end game.
That's the goal. And what's fascinating is that, a lot of people, they dismissed it. Like, oh, this is just a billionaire's fantasy. But SpaceX, they don't just talk. They execute. They become the first private company to actually launch a spacecraft into orbit.
That's huge.
A moment that totally changes the space game.
Though, it's important to remember, it wasn't an overnight success story.
Oh, no, no, no.
Those first few years were brutal.
Brutal.
3 failed rocket launches in a row.
The kind of setbacks that would, crush most people.
Absolutely.
And this is where I think that resilience you mentioned comes in.
Yeah.
Musk has this, like, almost irrational optimism, this belief that failure is just part of the process.
It's like he expects to fail, but then he just gets back up.
Absolutely. There's this famous quote where he says, I'd rather try to do something great and fail than do nothing at all.
Yeah, and so even when SpaceX was on the verge of bankruptcy, he kept pushing.
Mm-hmm.
And that persistence, it paid off. They partnered with NASA. They started sending missions to the International Space Station.
All building towards that Mars goal.
All those steps on the way to Mars.
Oh, it's incredible.
And it's interesting because while all of this is happening,
yeah,
he's simultaneously running Tesla.
Oh, right. It's not like he's just, like, picks one lane and stays in it.
Right. He's tackling completely different industries seemingly at the same time.
Amazing.
So now Tesla, again, Musk wasn't the original founder, but he becomes, like, the face.
The driving force.
The driving force behind their success.
Yeah.
And he saw this future where electric cars weren't just, like, eco-friendly.
Mm-hmm.
They were desirable.
Which is key, right? Because back then, electric cars, they were seen as slow, clunky.
The opposite of cool.
Right. But Musk saw the potential not just in the tech itself.
But in, like, shifting public perception.
Exactly. It's all about the image.
And he was willing to go head-to-head with these giants. These, like, giants of the auto industry,
Hmm.
companies that have been doing things the same way for decades.
Like, who does that?
I know, right? And Tesla had its own share of struggles too,
Yeah, no startup is easy.
Production delays, financial, woes,
The usual drama.
startup drama.
Right.
But again, you see Musk's persistence, that ability to inspire not just his team, but the public.
Yeah, he's a master at that.
They pulled through.
And the impact is undeniable. I mean, Tesla made electric vehicles mainstream.
Totally.
They didn't just build a car, they built an aspirational brand.
Like something people actually wanted to own.
Yeah.
It's like he cracked the code on how to make sustainability sexy.
Which, honestly, that's a pretty impressive feat in itself.
Yeah, for sure. But
There's more.
buckle up because it doesn't stop there. We got Solar City, Hyperloop, Neuralink.
Oh my gosh, we're just getting started.
Things are about to get even wilder.
All right, bring it on.
All right.
Welcome back. We're in deep with Elon Musk right now. And I think we've covered a lot of ground, right? His early days coding all the way to, SpaceX and Tesla.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of his big moves.
We have. But I think it's good to, pause here for a second and really examine what drives him. We've talked about his, resilience, persistence.
Right, how he bounces back from setbacks.
Right. But I think there's something deeper going on here.
I think you're right. It's like he's playing a different game than everyone else.
It's true.
Like the stakes are higher, the risks are greater, but so are the potential rewards. It's almost like he's not bound by the same limitations as most people.
That's a great way to put it. And one of the key concepts that helps us understand Musk is this idea of first principles thinking. He doesn't just accept, the conventional wisdom or the way things have always been done.
Okay, so he's not just following the crowd.
No. He breaks down problems into their most basic elements.
Like starts from scratch.
Yeah, and builds up from there.
Okay, I'm kind of intrigued. Can you, give me an example? What does that look like?
Sure. Think about SpaceX again. The traditional approach to space travel was, incredibly expensive. And rockets, they were essentially disposable.
Right, use it once and then poof, it's gone.
Exactly. And Musk looked at this and was like, why? Why does it have to be this way?
So he's questioning the assumptions everyone else just takes for granted.
Exactly. He challenged this assumption that rockets couldn't be reusable.
Which led to the Falcon 9, the first orbital-class reusable rocket.
Right. It was a radical departure from the norm. A lot of people thought it was impossible.
But he proved them wrong.
He did.
Yeah.
By, questioning those underlying assumptions, he came up with a truly innovative solution that's revolutionizing the space industry.
Wow. Okay, so it's not just about SpaceX. It's this, underlying philosophy that he applies to everything.
Right. This, relentless pursuit of what's possible, even when everyone else says it can't be done.
Right, we see that over and over again. But we've also talked about the potential downsides, right? Like that intense work ethic, those 80, 100-hour work weeks. It's clearly been a major factor in his success. But you got to wonder about sustainability, work-life balance.
Yeah, it's hard to imagine maintaining that level of intensity for years on end without burning out.
There have been reports of high turnover at some of his companies, employee burnout. It makes you wonder what's the cost of all this? This relentless pursuit of innovation.
No, it's a valid point, and it's something that, Musk himself has acknowledged.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's talked about the challenges of balancing, his work life with his personal life, the toll it takes on him. But he also seems to believe that, the potential rewards outweigh the sacrifices.
So it's a trade-off he's willing to make.
It seems that way.
Okay, so let's talk about his other ventures. Solar City, Hyperloop, and Neuralink. These are all examples of Musk applying his unique approach to different industries, tackling problems that, most people wouldn't even dream about.
Yeah, it's like he sees opportunities where others just see obstacles.
Right. So Solar City, what's the story there?
Well, Solar City is interesting because it shows how Musk thinks holistically. It's not just about building electric cars. It's about creating a whole sustainable energy ecosystem.
Oh, I see. So it's all connected.
Yeah, exactly. Solar City's mission was to make solar energy more accessible and affordable, which, ties in directly with Tesla's goal of reducing reliance on fossil fuels.
Right. So it's this, bigger vision of a sustainable future.
Well, exactly.
Okay, and then there's Hyperloop, this futuristic transportation system, right? Supposed to whisk people between cities at supersonic speeds. It sounds like something straight out of science fiction.
It does, doesn't it? But, Musk put the idea out there, and he's inspired others to pursue it.
So even if he's not directly building it, He's sparked this, like, wave of innovation.
Yeah, it's about challenging the status quo, pushing those boundaries of what's possible, even if Hyperloop never actually becomes a reality.
It's gotten people thinking differently about transportation.
Exactly. It sparked a conversation about the future of transportation and the need for like truly innovative solutions to our growing infrastructure challenges.
Right, we can't just keep doing things the same way.
Right.
And finally, we have Neuralink. This might be the most ambitious and maybe even a little mind-blowing of all of his ventures. We're talking about brain-computer interfaces, like merging human intelligence with artificial intelligence.
Yeah, it's like something straight out of a sci-fi movie.
It really is.
Neuralink's goal is to develop these implantable devices that can interact directly with the human brain. The potential applications, they're vast.
Like, what kind of things are we talking about?
Well, it could be anything from treating neurological disorders
Oh,
to
okay.
like enhancing cognitive abilities. It's a field that's both like incredibly exciting
Yeah, I can see that.
and fraught with ethical considerations.
It feels like we're, like, on the verge of something truly transformative,
Hmm.
something that could fundamentally change what it means to be human. But it's also a bit unsettling, like the idea of merging our minds with machines, and it raises all sorts of questions about, like, consciousness, identity, and, potential misuse.
Right. It's definitely a double-edged sword.
For sure.
On the one hand, Neuralink holds this promise of like incredible medical breakthroughs and, maybe even expanding human capabilities.
Right, like unlocking potential we didn't even know we had.
But on the other hand, it raises concerns about like privacy, autonomy, and the potential for creating a divide between those who have access to this technology.
And those who don't.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's a lot to unpack, and I think it's important to, like, approach these advancements with a healthy dose of excitement and caution.
Mm,
We're talking about technology that could have, like, profound implications for the future of humanity.
no doubt. And it's a reminder that technological progress isn't without its risks. As we continue to push those boundaries of what's possible, we need to have these thoughtful and informed discussions about, the ethical implications.
Absolutely.
So we've covered a lot today, from Musk's, early ventures to his ambitions to like reshape entire industries, even redefine what it means to be human.
Yeah, it's been quite a journey. But the question is, like, what does all this mean for us?
Yeah.
The average listener trying to make sense of this complex and rapidly changing world.
That's a great question, and it's one that we'll explore in the next part of our deep dive. We'll get into the broader implications of Musk's work, his impact on society, and, what we can learn from his approach to innovation.
Okay, welcome back to our deep dive into the world of Elon Musk. And wow, it's been a wild ride, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Rockets and electric cars and now, like, brain-computer interfaces?
I know, right? We've really gone from 0 to 60 here, haven't we?
Totally. But even with all these ventures, these crazy ventures, there's this consistent set of principles that Musk seems to be driven by, right?
Absolutely. It's this constant challenging of the status quo. It's first principles thinking, and it's pushing the boundaries of what everyone thinks is possible.
Yeah, we've talked about all the successes, but also some of the, potential downsides. The work ethic, the sometimes maybe controversial behavior, the sheer scale of his influence on the world. But as we kind of, like, wrap this up, what's the takeaway? What can the average person, listening to this, what can they learn from a guy who seems to be, like, playing life on a whole other level?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And I think, honestly, one of the most important takeaways is the power of setting truly audacious goals. Like, Musk doesn't just think big, he thinks massive.
Right. He doesn't shy away from things that most people would say are just impossible.
Exactly. Colonizing Mars, revolutionizing transportation, merging human consciousness with AI. These are goals that most of us wouldn't even dare to dream about.
It's like he's looking at a totally different set of possibilities, like operating on a different time scale than the rest of us. But does that mean that, his lessons are only applicable to billionaires with these, like, world-changing aspirations?
Not at all. I mean, sure, we might not have Musk's resources, but we can still apply that same boldness to our own lives?
Yeah, so, like, what are we holding back on?
Exactly. What would it look like if we set aside our fear of failure and just went for it?
I love that. It's about pushing ourselves beyond our comfort zones, embracing that, like, Muskian willingness to take risks, to learn from mistakes. He's shown that failure isn't the opposite of success, it's part of the journey.
Totally. And remember that first principles thinking we discussed. That's something anyone can practice.
Yeah, it's not just for rocket scientists.
No, not at all. Don't just accept the way things are. Question the assumptions. break down the problems to their core, and then look for those creative solutions. You might surprise yourself.
Yeah, cultivate that curiosity, challenge the status quo, and don't let our preconceived notions limit our thinking.
Hmm.
And like you said, this isn't just for tech geniuses or entrepreneurs. This is a valuable skill for anyone in any field.
I couldn't agree more. And, I think Musk's story, despite all its complexities, reminds us that the future isn't something that just happens to us.
We're not just passengers.
We have a role to play in shaping it, whether it's through our individual choices, our careers, how we engage in these larger societal conversations. We have the power to contribute to a future that aligns with our values.
It's a call to action. It's an invitation to think big, to dream big, and to work towards a future that is hopefully more sustainable, more innovative, and more equitable.
Exactly. And who knows, maybe some of us listening will be inspired to tackle those challenges that seem as impossible now as, colonizing Mars did just a few decades ago.
It's a good thought to leave on. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of Elon Musk.
It's been a pleasure exploring these ideas with you. Keep questioning, keep learning, and keep diving deeper.